Once you had cancer and got through it, and you really think you're fine, but then you relapse anyway, you never feel safe anymore. It's always hanging out there in the back of your mind. It's just a constant fear that sets in your being and is with you every day of your child's life. We met in our late 20s, and so we got married and spent about 5 to 6 years together. And our journey included some other bumps along the way. For example, we had a little bit of an infertility problem, overcame that. Then we got pregnant and we miscarried and we overcame that. Then we got pregnant with Clarissa, almost lost her in utero, overcame that. Then she was born premature, 11 weeks early at 3 pounds 1 ounce. We had 2 blissful years of having a healthy toddler. Our son was born in November, and in December, at his 6-week well baby checkup, she was diagnosed with the leukemia. We went through 2.5 years of chemo, 5 years of blood tests. It's actually a 7.5-year protocol, so it becomes an integral part of your life. And we spent the next 7 years without a relapse, thinking we were in the clear. So it took us completely by surprise when she was 12 and she was diagnosed with her relapse.
I was diagnosed right before my 13th birthday, actually. It was after my friend and I had gone to New York to celebrate our birthdays together, and I was showing some symptoms of tiredness and bruising and similar things, and I had a bad headache too. So we went to my pediatrician, and then we did a blood test, and we were sent right to Hopkins, and it actually started the next day I began chemo. I was very emotional, but I was trying to hide it because I didn't really want to seem like the weak one or a victim, and I didn't really want to make a big deal out of it. And I wanted to be strong in front of my parents because I know that if I started crying, it would just make them cry harder.
Our first night, you're just shocked. You don't know what hit you. You can't cry in front of your child because you don't want to scare them. So you go in the bathroom and you shut the door when they're sleeping and you just do your crying in the bathroom. And the nurse came in and just gave me a big hug. And it was such a warm and comforting thing at a time where your life is just all in pieces overnight. So I thank the nurses too because they're really wonderful.
I've been on 2.5 years of chemo each time, which is about 1/3 of my life I've been on chemo because I'm almost 16 now. So I've done a lot of chemo in my life.
So we ended up with a treatment protocol that required her to get just a god-awful amount of chemotherapy. The first 3 months she was barely alive. My sister is an RN for 20 years and she worked in transplant, and she explained it that they will bring your child as close to death as possible without killing her, which is exactly what they did. And she did not die, and I will be forever grateful to Hopkins for that because I view the doctors like artists. It's more than science, it's an art.
During my treatment, it was 2.5 years long, so it was a very long time. And the first year was mostly spent in the hospital, in and out of the inpatient ward. It was like we had once-a-week appointments, so I would spend weekends in the hospital most of the time because that was when my mom could go and my brother could stay home with my dad without having to be home alone because he was only like 11 at the time, I think. So it was important for him to have someone home with him. And it really impacted us because weekends are usually supposed to be spent with each other. So they would either just be home by themselves or they would come visit us. But we never really had the same family interactions as most people do. So I think that made a big difference for us. Yet when I did get home from the hospital, we did a lot together. We always ate dinner together. And I think that's really been the glue that holds us all together because we could still come together at the end of the day. Even if I wasn't feeling that well, we could still be together and talk. And I think that really helped our family get through it.
You can't do it by yourself. It's near impossible to keep some semblance of normalcy, and especially with another child who also needs attention and is growing up, and needs love and so forth. It's a lot of juggling to make sure that you distribute your love and attention evenly under the circumstances.
My son was in a football league in the fall, and I was driving him to the football practice once with a friend in the back seat while Paul was in the hospital with Clarissa. And he turns to his buddy, and his buddy's asking him about Clarissa and how he's doing, and he goes, and he was like about 11 years old at the time, and he said, I feel like the single child of divorced parents, and yet we consider ourselves a happy unit, a happy family. But it's just the way for weeks and days at a time you're ripped apart because the child has to spend that time in a hospital under the doctor's supervision.
So I think our family going through this illness has changed my life quite a bit. It's really given me a realization of that life's basically a gift, that you're not really invincible from anything. There's always quite a large possibility of something going wrong.
There will always be that nagging concern that something might happen because of this second episode. So we've learned to take one day at a time and to celebrate each day. Every day that we wake up and we're still together is a good day, but it will never leave you.
During my treatment, my role model, and throughout most of my life, my role model has been Queen Elizabeth I, because I'm a little bit of a history geek. I like to read historical fiction, and I read a book when I was 12 kind of about her life, and I really found that she is an amazing role model because she was so strong. She faced a lot of adversity, and she came out the other end a very strong and brave woman. She was always courageous, and I liked to kind of believe that I could be the same way, and I used her kind of to help me kind of be that way and be strong. Cancer has made so many positive impacts on me. I'm decided to write a book for other teenagers going through cancer about the emotional aspects of it, because I never realized that there was such an emotional side to it, and I think it's even more inherent when you're older and you're a teenager and you're going through already so many changes in your life, and then you have this huge thing that completely turns everything upside down. And I've also developed a very good relationship with the people at Johns Hopkins who have taken care of me. And a woman named Steffi Davis, she invited me once to do a speech with Outback Steakhouse. And ever since, I've become very involved in doing different speaking events to help raise money for pediatric cancer research. And I've really come to enjoy being that kind of confident person and telling my story, and I hope it can help other people. Actually, next school year, I've registered for a program called Intern Mentor, which is where you get to intern with a person in a career field of your choice. And the class is at my high school. It's a research project, but I've chosen to intern with Dr. Brown. He works in pediatric oncology at Johns Hopkins, and he was my attending oncologist. And I wrote him a letter requesting that maybe I could come intern with him next year. And I was so surprised because he emailed me back. He said, Clarissa, I would be honored to have you. And I literally did a dance in my kitchen because I actually want to be a doctor when I get older. So I was very excited to be able to do that with him because he's a really amazing guy. He's really nice. When I was diagnosed, they gave me, I think it was a 50% chance of survival, which is really scary at 13 years old. You don't think you're going to only have 50% chance of living. And there was another boy who was diagnosed soon after me who was about the same age, and he actually had a similar diagnosis to me, a 10-year later relapse, and he passed away. So I actually feel amazingly lucky sometimes that some miraculous way I ended up with the 50% that did survive. But I'm always grateful because I could have ended up with the 50% that didn't.